That one dude burning the Quran? No, no. Us hiding the Quran. That's the bigger problem. Muslim, Ammis and Abus. Muslims, Ammis and Muslims, Abus hiding the Quran. That's something to be sad and to cry about. So we all know what's going on. It's all right. At least we admit what the truth is. That's our job one. So our kids will be like, yeah, you know what? We already knew that. I swear to you, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old going to say that. Dude, daddy, I knew. I just didn't know why you were hiding it all of your life. Our 14-year-olds know the truth. They know way more than the last two generations combined. They're laughing at all this sheikhs and sheikhas and, those Islamic conferences. Like, what are you afraid of? And I'm talking to those teenagers in America right now. Every other day, I have sessions with teenagers. They're laughing it out. It's like, what are they afraid of? I'm like, yeah, I know. The fact that makes me, gives me hope that you're going to make the big change through political force, getting everybody together, create the big influence. That's the big war. The next war is not going to be fought by guns and tanks and missiles. No, it's going to be fought through words and rationale, influence. The Prophet said, you will be in billions. Right now, you're in hundreds and thousands. You will be in billions. And you will be butchered like a little animal, like he actually gave the analogy of roasted chicken. People will be just taking bites off of you, and you won't be able to fight because you'll be dead. Prophet was asked by the companions, Ya Rasulullah, how would that be? When we're going to be in billions, the Prophet said, because you'll be suffering from wahan. The companions asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is wahan? Because the companions never even knew of such a concept that Muslims in billions would be taken over by the rest of the world. They'll be feasting upon us. The Prophet said, wahan is the love of this planet and the fear of death. The love of this planet and the fear of death. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Anna from Sweden.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, I'm from Sweden, and all the things that are happening here. The Paludan boy who's burning Quran and everything. And I just have a question around that, because I don't know how to deal with this, and I really want to do something, and I'm really confused because it's another thing that they are hurting our feelings and all that, but now it's like it's too much, and everywhere we're trying, and people are trying to make it illegal, that he shouldn't do this, but it just comes to free speech, and it just said it doesn't stop. And another question I had was, the person who invited him here to Sweden, he was political. He's in the parliament right now. So the message he sent to this man was that I don't think that Turkey would be angry if we burnt the Quran, but they would be more angry if we burnt the Turkish flag. And I'm just like, how is it possible that they really think that? How can the Quran not be as important as the Turkish flag? Like, it's so obvious to them that the Quran might not have the same feelings for every Muslim, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm just confused. I don't know what to do. And I'd really like your thought. Sorry?
How old are you?
I'm 30. I'm born and raised here, so.
Were your parents born and raised there?
No, they came here like 50, 60 years ago, so they've been here quite a while.
Where are you from, India or Pakistan?
Pakistan, sorry, sir.
Have you been to Pakistan?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Who says that, did that guy in the parliament said that if the Turkish flag was to be burned down, they would have?
Exactly, yeah. He's a member. Yeah, he's a non-Muslim. He's one of the member in the Sverigedemokraterna. I don't know if you know, it's the most racist party right now, who's elected in the parliament. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Everybody knows about that.
Yeah.
Tell me, just because he said it doesn't really make it true. No Turkish person alive right now would be furious about, you know, the Turkish flag being burnt more than whatever is being done. It happened in Norway before. Now it's Sweden. Tomorrow it's going to be Finland, then
Yeah.
Denmark. Well, I'm surprised that it's not happening often enough, especially in Holland and Belgium, where they're actually trying to ban Islam altogether, as a religion.
Mhm. Exactly.
So it's not a debate that Muslims are having often enough. Most Muslims are having a debate as to how much of a savior the left wing is for them, Muslims. And they actually are falling head over heels in love with the leftists who are complaining about this sort of a thing. And they're not realizing that whatever complaint that the left has towards these sort of events, it is not based out of anything that that the Muslims represent. Left is complaining about this sort of an event based out of a totally different agenda and an emotion, which is tied to their central pillar, which Muslims are totally against. Left wing is going to do similar, if not more, damage if they were to be practicing or enforcing the laws that they want to enforce. And there are not many governments which are leftists, which are currently ruling in the world, which matter, of course, in the West. So wherever they are ruling, it is causing more damage to the Muslim identity in those countries. You need to understand that. Joe Biden signing off that document most recently is a far bigger damage to Muslim identity in America than this obvious evil, which even the Christians would believe, even the atheists would believe that this is an evil act. This is preposterous. So the ideal thing would be for all Muslims in the world, to start a process through which our kids, ourselves, would understand how to curb this the cause of this sort of an event to happen. Okay. Now, Muslims did not cause this. You need to understand that. No matter how many times people would want to blame Al Qaeda or ISIS or whatever, Muslims are not the cause of this sort of evil activity to happen. It is the bigger political agenda, which can be debated whether it is a religious agenda or a very, very a-religious agenda that the West actually is pushing into in the name of science or whatever they want to call it, to liberate all human beings. So it is not the right-wing, extreme, racist parties in the world that are causing this sort of evil to happen. It is actually the philosophy of the West, the liberal leftist West, that is causing. That's the cause. And if you just ponder over just 20, 30 minutes over why and how these sort of events happen, you'll find out that it is that's how this sort of evil actually manifests. That's why this sort of evil actually manifests wherever it does, be it New Zealand, where this psycho goes into a masjid and starts shooting, be it Norway, where he comes out, this old dude, or this Dutch politician that has nothing but an agenda against Islam, even though whatever the problems he has from Islam, there is a far bigger problem that even Christianity is causing for that person, the way he's approaching, the way his worldview is created. Now, if I were in Sweden, I would have been gathering up a lot more clusters of Muslims around all Scandinavia, not just Sweden, around all of Europe, not just Scandinavia, around the West, and even back home, wherever the Muslim population is. I would have been a lot more active in creating a stronger cluster, in creating a deeper awareness, in connecting human beings together to make sure everyone knows why and how this sort of event actually takes place. How long does it take for this sort of an event to take place or to happen, so that we can make sure that it does not happen, not just by persuasion and generating higher level of empathy in these psychos, in these freaks, in this evil that lives inside the philosophy of certain individuals, but to make sure that we intimidate, that we literally strike a philosophical line between these sort of people who are politicians mostly, who are people of influence mostly. They use social media or they actually write books that instigate this sort of an element inside non-Muslims or atheists or certain ethnicities, or doesn't matter who. You need to understand, this is human psychology I'm talking about. I am not talking about any sort of politics here, even though I am a politician. Every Muslim is. It is a game of influence, and Swedish Muslims are just being emotional for a very temporary, on a temporary basis, Scandinavian Muslims and all Muslims in the world, because the same event happened in Norway, and the effect of that event did not last more than a week. So I am not going to be convinced by the flurry of superficial emotion that is flying around the Muslim world right now over this event, because this event, if anything, is going to immune and get Muslims used to these sort of an event. I do not want any Muslim child or a youngster, especially girls and boys in their teens, to take this lightly. And since people in their 30s and 40s are going to get busy with their own lives after no more than a week, that is the actual problem. Him burning the Quran is not the actual problem. Us not doing anything about it for more than just a week's cry and hue over throwing away emotional statements on Twitter or Facebook or whatever you guys are using, all of us are using. And instead of doing something concrete about this, getting all Muslims together, no matter how we can actually get them all together, and to make sure that we act as a single organism in front of the world as all Muslims, from Australia to Alaska, from Brazil to Siberia, from England to Cape Town. We all have to, at least a certain kind of people, to come together, because all of us are not going to come together. Okay, let's be realistic. But people who actually have that sort of a deeper understanding of how things are done, why things are done, and what kind of a force is behind all of this, and why is this force applied. So, because these guys are not just regular folks. Because if we're just a regular Joe coming out of his own emotional decision to do such a heinous act, it would have just happened once, maybe twice. But it is happening every other week in every different country. And it's all happening against Islam. So we need to connect. We need to make sure that we connect not only to swear at other people. No, that's not the way. That's not going to help anything. But to understand and develop IQ, the IQ of every Muslim child, every Muslim youth, as to how to look at and generate a very clear and crisp worldview, so that anyone who looks at Islam to even think about daring to damage any sort of any part of our fabric of Islam, he would be intimidated the hell out of getting that act together. So us going emotional is just not going to cut it. I am not going to buy this, these I'm not going to put any weight in the tears of Muslims right now, because they're going to dry out before their next paycheck comes in those countries, in those currencies, which are pulling all Muslims in those countries, because that is the bitter and God honest truth. We need to understand what is actually the problem of Muslims, with Muslims, inside Muslims, about Muslims, not what these non-Muslims are doing to the Quran or Islam, but what Muslims are doing to the Quran and Islam. That little freak is just burning the Quran. We are actually burning the essence of Quran every single day. And no Muslim cries about this. We are literally running away from the Quran, which is a far bigger event. And that's why nothing can be done about these freaks in Holland and in Sweden and in Norway or in America or Canada or even Pakistan or India or wherever. So let's put the blame on the real leadership, which is within us, Muslims, and stop hiding behind our own tears. We are hiding behind our own tears, finding solace in just crying, looking up in the heavens, thinking that we're just servicing Islam by just crying about this. Us protesting in our own countries, in our own streets, that is not Islam. That is the exact opposite of Islam. Muslim pride and Muslim grace is flushed down the gutter when we go to our own streets to protest for just a couple of days or a maximum of a week and start writing sad stories in newspapers and on social media. That's the real problem with Muslims. We really are suffering from a far bigger disease than those non-Muslims which are suffering from just hatred against Islam. Let's admit the truth. Let's admit that the stick is broken so that we can fix it. Girls of your age should really, really know where the problem is, so that when you're going to raise your sons and daughters, they would be raised in true Muslim identity, who would know exactly how to create the right influence in the rest of the world. You are in the center of influence. Sweden actually initiates most of the philosophy, most, if not all, of what the left of America or Canada or even all of West is following. Sweden is that important. I'm hoping that you do know about the depth of these words. So you need to understand the problem of Islam, that Islam is suffering from, is not non-Muslims. It is not America or India or Israel. Problem that Islam is suffering from is Muslims, the current mindset of Muslims, the greed of this planet and the fear of death. The Prophet said, you will be in billions. Right now, you're in hundreds and thousands. You will be in billions. The world rests under your feet right now. But you will be in billions, and you will be butchered like a little animal. Like he actually gave the analogy of roasted chicken. And people will be just taking bites off of you, and you won't be able to fight because you'll be dead. This Prophet was asked by the companions, Ya Rasulullah, How would that be? When we're going to be in billions, the Prophet said, because you'll be suffering from wahan. The companions asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is wahan? Because the Sahabas, the companions never even knew of such a concept that Muslims in billions would be taken over by the rest of the world. They'll be feasting upon us as if we're just cooked meat, literally cooked meat. The Prophet said, wahan is the love of this planet and the fear of death. The love of this planet and the fear of death. Now you can choose the real definition of what is left and what is right. No matter what kind of politics you want to do, this is literally the definition of how to identify the true left and true right. So it is us, Amina, it is you and me. That's the problem. We are the people who are burning the Quran. That man just happened to torch it. We are the one who gave him the gasoline and that matchstick. We, Muslims, we cannot shy away from the truth when it comes down to our akhirah. So you better make sure that you start to take all the blames of everything that is wrong upon your own shoulders so that you can try and fix it yourself. The day you're going to stop blaming others is the day you're going to start fixing things. It is a very low self-esteemed Muslim or any human being that actually looks for excuses to blame others. I do not want Muslim women, especially girls of your age, to get their concepts wrong about this core concept of how to look at human behavior. I want you to understand how a Muslim would behave. But before that, you should understand how a human naturally behaves. So the day you're going to take the blame of that freak who is burning the Quran, that I, Sahil Adeem, is responsible for that. That's the day I'm going to try and fix it and internalize this blame. Take ownership of this heinous act. Take ownership that it is because of me. Whatever is happening against Islam is because of me. Unless I internalize this, I'm not going to be able to fix it. So it is a very simple solution. Tough, very tough, but simple. And I have actual hope from Muslims in the West, because Muslims back home in India, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Kuwait, North Africa, Arabia, those people are just dying to be in the West. They're not there because they didn't get the visa. You guys made it. You can call back home and tell everybody else it was not worth it. You're in the center of, not the West, you're in the center of Wahan. You need to understand that. We have made Wahan cool. That's the bigger problem. And that's the problem we better start solving for our little ones. Stop making this kind of thing cool, because these sort of events are going to be masked under our own castrated psychology. And we're going to make excuses of not doing anything about this. Everyone has his own list of excuses, from New York, from Miami to Manila. Everyone, girls and boys, parents or sons, daughters or grandmothers. Every Muslim man and woman has his own list of excuses as to, hey, you know what can we do? What can we do? We are the ones who are doing all of this. So people in their 30s, those are the people at their prime, not just their intelligence, but their energy, you need to start to connect everybody. Start generating discussions which are going to raise the IQ of Muslims, especially our kids, so that they can understand what is the true reality and they can generate a more clearer world view, so that they can actually be demanding those skills that are going to equip them on the pedestals of competence that is going to drive the world, so that people can be afraid of doing anything against not just Muslims, but Islam. So no more crying about this. Please don't cry about this. Cry about the bigger crime that is being committed by Muslims.
But sir, here, whenever we try to discuss something like this, especially as Muslims who try to like invoke something around other Muslims, it's always like we're pinpointed, and the biggest fear we have here is like that the government will take our kids away, because that's the like it's happened so much here.
It's away. What does that mean? Away. What do you mean away?
They take kids from families who are like known to be violent or to be extremists, and they take those kids and put them in other social homes where maybe Swedes or any other people will take care of these kids who are yours. And that's like the biggest fear I have, seriously. But even though I like today we were discussing this issue with Paludan and everything. Sorry?
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, 1 daughter and 1 son.
Hold on, let me get this straight on them.
Yes.
What you're saying is Sweden is going to take your kids away. That's what you're saying, okay?
Yeah.
So you're going to let Sweden take Islam away.
No, I can't. No.
Did you not just say that?
Yeah, I did, but I can't let them do that. That's the thing.
I'm going to let me repeat this for everybody else. Mommies in Sweden are going to be afraid to. Okay, what if tomorrow there's a law that prohibits you from doing certain actions of Islam? Then what you going to do?
I don't think I can follow those rules, because right now hijab is very controversial.
Whoa. No, let's not talk about hijab. Hijab is not, no, let's not talk about hijab.
Okay.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Right? Or not? Du förstår icke?
Jo, jag förstår. Jag förstår.
Yeah. So Sweden is going to make a law that is going to. Okay, hold on. Let's just reciprocate this. Hold on. So unless Sweden forces you to go into Islam, you're not going to do that. That's what you're telling me. You know that? Du förstår?
Ja, nu jag förstår.
Well, there you have it. That's Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying. Unless Sweden forces me to Islam, I'm not going to practice Islam. Otherwise, they're going to take my kids away.
Sahil, assalamu alaikum.
You know what? Let me just add a little to it. So your mother, when she was taking you to Sweden, from, I don't know where you're from, Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, wherever. Okay.
Lahore.
Okay. So from Lahore to Sweden, you're in what city?
Stockholm.
Okay. Why am I not surprised? So Lahore to Stockholm. So your mother took you away from your family from Pakistan to Sweden, and Sweden is going to take your daughter away to Sweden. So where was Islam left in all of this 2 generations? That is the 3rd generation. What's your daughter's name?
Inaya. So
Inaya. What's your mother's name?
Abida.
Abida. So from Abida to Inaya, right?
Yeah.
Sweden came in the way between Abida and Inaya, and now Abida chose Sweden and Sweden chose Inaya.
Mhm.
Think about it. Food for thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did Amina go? That's what my question is. Okay. I know what Abda did, and I know what Sweden's going to do to Inaya. What did Amina do in all this? That's the real question you're going to solve. Okay. Otherwise, Inaya is going to stand in the day of judgment, and she's going to put both of you guys, Abida and Amina, that who gave you the right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's the problem. That's why I keep telling you, every Muslim has to be together, or enough of us, to raise the IQ of Anayas so that they would know. Because Amina, in less than 10 years, Anaya is not going to listen to you anyway. Okay? She's going to be too old and too wise, and she's going to actually justify based on whatever rationale Sweden is cooking up right now, because Sweden cooks up its own rationale. New definitions of everything, Ironically, I don't know what happened to Sweden, how it happened. It's a tiny little country. It's calling the shots on so many things. Case study for all Muslims. If only Sweden can do so much in all of these 2 billion Muslim countries. You just, what I'm saying? It's what the bigger problem? The bigger problem is those Muslims don't even want to feel anything about this. Those are the real problems. And that comes to, in the hierarchy of all of this is those Muslims who are actually feeling about something. Actually, you know what? This should be a number one. Muslims who feel something bad about whatever's going on and not going to do anything about it. That's the cluster I'm actually against, Like, who are you trying to put an act for? Yourself? Allah Azza wa Jalla, really? Or rest
Yes,
of the
sir.
Muslims?
Sorry, the Stockholm Imam, he was also like quite leftist. So he was like, yeah, no, Turkey shouldn't be, so they shouldn't boycott and everything. And it was like he was representing all the things that he shouldn't. He was not intellectually answering anything that the interviewer was asking him, but he was like. And when I asked my friends about this discussion, and they were like, yeah, it's good that he answered like that, because Islam is peaceful. We should answer peacefully. We shouldn't be violent. Like, okay, we shouldn't be violent, but we shouldn't sit and do nothing. We should do something. And then they came up with this thing that, yeah, your kids will be taken away. What will you do? So there's the confusion. Like, I'm trying to make them understand.
I really, I'm really, I'm picking a lot of bones against Maulvis in Pakistan and India, but I swear to God, I fall in love with all the Maulvis of Pakistan. And everybody hates those Maulvis in the West. Muslim in the West hate those Maulvis in Pakistan and India, right? But you fall in love with them when you look at American or Western Muslim clerics sitting in masjids. I swear, it's like, what happened to you guys?
Yeah, so true.
It's like, what happened to you guys? Who died and put you on the pulpit? It's that obvious. I mean, 12, 13-year-old kids in New York are just laughing at their imams. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And you know what? Their IQ is generated by YouTube, for God's sakes. And they have the sense to understand that this dude is reading. He's not saying anything. He's reading a script. And I can understand when the whole political body is against, a certain masjid to say certain things, and certain things he cannot, of whatever political correctness. These dudes in Stockholm and, in New York or Toronto or Sydney, their local establishments don't even know what this dude is talking about. You know what? He's afraid of his own demons, his own deportation. He thinks, someone's listening in on him. And he's trying to please that certain agenda that he knows what the agenda is out there, but no one's listening to his lectures. He's just giving those politically correct lectures so that he can stay and he can keep the passport. Isn't it? Most of them don't even have passports. They're just living off, So I'm just saying, we all know what's going on. Muslims in the West are that's why I keep looking at you guys. You have way higher of an IQ than this local Pakistani. And you guys are the one who actually define political correctness. All of a sudden, you guys became so peaceful. You know what? That's not peaceful. That's numb. Stop calling it peaceful. Start calling it numb. Do you know what I'm saying? Because as soon as these Western Muslims are sexually harassed or politically harassed or harassed at work, all of a sudden they go to court. They're doing whatever they can, in some of the lawyers are surprised as to what kind of an acumen and talent this guy or girl has, man. All of a sudden, when it comes down to Islam, you know what? Islam is just peace, nothing else. Okay, I hear you. Yeah, Amish community has a lot more guts. They've shown a lot more grit. They've shown a lot more vigor than the Muslim community all over the world. Amish, Western Amish. There Amish in Sweden? Are there any Amish living in Sweden?
No, not that I know of.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know who the Amish are, right?
Yeah.
You know the Amish, right?
Yeah, those. Yeah.
Those Christians.
Yeah.
Turn the other cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's mostly like atheist country here, so.
Nah, it's not about atheism or Christianity or whatever. It's about Muslims, okay? We somehow have become Pauline Muslims. Let's start calling it # Pauline Muslims. Turn the other cheek. Islam is peaceful. Okay, I get it. I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The same kind of tide is running in Pakistan, India, trust me. But, since when you're in the majority, your ethnicity is actually prevalent, you tend to be a little higher in self-esteem than wherever you are in a minority. I can understand that. But that's why I'm saying wherever Muslims are in minority, this is the formula. Write this down, everybody. When you are in a minority and you need your kids to have a higher sense of self-esteem, sense of their own self and higher confidence in their own self-worth, you cannot remain a minority then. How do you not remain a minority in America if you're a Muslim or in Canada or Australia or wherever? Well, then you create a bigger club of community, your own community, over, a bigger sphere or wherever we are connected in social media now. As soon as your kids are going to be connected to the rest of Muslims, all of a sudden their sense of being a minority in Norway or Scandinavia or England or wherever, that's going to go away. Where do you think the minority syndrome comes within the minority and devastates their self-esteem? Because they do not get the sense of their own philosophy in the place that they're living in. And that's not going to give them the sense of the Quran because they're not designed on the sense of the Quran. Okay. So for our kids to get the sense of the Quran so that their self-esteem is well established, they need a wider majority of people acclaiming, validating, and talking about how true this book is, how valid this book is, how relevant this book is. And that's called the intellectual discourse. And how are you going to do that? You're going to connect your kids and the global community of Muslims through the internet now. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, you're born in Amna, you're born in Sweden. So you always were a minority. In your class, you were what? One of 28 girls? Maybe 2 Muslims? I don't know. I was not there. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, you were comparing your house with your school, and you knew that unless you give up a little bit of your house inside your school, you're not even going to make a single friend. You made that decision all your life in Stockholm. That's what breaks the self-esteem. of any human being, not just you, anyone. So what do? Well, the damage has been done with us, but we cannot afford to let that kind of damage be done to our kids. So what we do, we connect them to a global community. And that's what I'm trying to tell every mother and father. Hell, we're trying to actually develop this IMS, this Islamic messaging systems, through which we're going to connect every Muslim together. Talk about relevant things. Otherwise, they'll be bored out of those groups. Okay, they cannot be boring groups with regular Muslim clerics talking in their slow tone like a professor with irrelevant things, just talking about, oh, how to be kind to your mother or your father. That's not something our kids want to hear. They already know that. You got to step it up a lot more so that we can speak in their grammar about things that matter to them. That's what's needed for our next generation. That's called the Islamic messaging system. Start making clusters so that your kids can be inside those clusters. They can talk about serious questions. Most of the Western Muslim kids do not have any sense of those answers that their own classmates are asking about Islam. And since they don't have the answer, they come back home and mommy doesn't know nothing. Daddy's not home because he's making those big bucks or whatever he's trying to do. And this boy or girl just loses it. That's where we need to connect them to those forums, those groups, which talk in the language of that child who's a teenager and gives them the perfect answer in the perfect time. Otherwise, it's going to be too late. I know my generation. I mean, when I was growing up in America, Canada, it was too late. Nobody had the answers. And I used to go to the masjid, talk about these things. That dude was just about that Stockholm imam. You know what he used to do to us? Hush, hush, shh, don't talk about this, for God's sakes. Who you been hanging out with? I'm like, I don't know nobody. Peter and Paul in my class. That's who I'm hanging out with. This question came from Peter and Paul. Why are you thinking that I'm ISIS or Al-Qaeda, for God's sakes? I ask a straight question. This dude is so afraid, you know what I'm saying? In his masjid. Why do you think he's afraid? Because he thinks they're letting him in his country and letting him stay in this country. And as soon as he's going to talk about Islam, they're going to kick him out. That's the problem. Our kids are asking more candid questions than Osama bin Laden himself. Our kids in Toronto, in Finland, in Norway, they're actually asking the right and more candid questions straight up than any Osama bin Laden has ever asked. Those are true and right questions. Atheists ask these questions. Christians and Jews ask these questions. No religion has nothing to do with it. These are natural human questions. Where is Islam servicing us? Show me the bigger solution to all of the problems that Scandinavia is suffering from. Quran has that. I swear to you, it has that. But no masjid imam is going to be looking at it from that perspective. He's only be like, okay, 20 people in the Jummah prayer. Okay, how to make it 200. That's his agenda right now. And all of those American and Western clerics, you know what they're trying to project? We all know what they're trying to project. So kids have stopped listening to all of those, I'm not going to name any of them. Because some people are going to stop listening to this podcast because of this negative psychology. But we all know who I'm talking about. Give them sugar-coated pills, the placebo of Islam, so that, people will be what their rationale is? Well, people will be at least doing what they're doing now. Otherwise, they're just running away because we don't want to give them all of what the Quran says, because they're not even at the first page of the Quran. We want to at least give them something. Really? And you really chose that something which is going to keep you in that country for long enough to keep giving them something. So we all know what's going on. It's all right. I mean, at least we admit what the truth is. That's our job one. So our kids will be like, yeah, you know what? We already knew that. I swear to you, a 12-year-old, 13-year-old going to say that. Dude, Daddy, I knew. I just didn't know why you were hiding it all of your life. Our 14-year-olds know the truth. They know way more Then the last two generations combined, they're laughing at all this sheikhs and sheikhas and, those Islamic conferences. It's like, what are you afraid of? And I'm talking to those teenagers in America right now. Every other day, I have sessions with teenagers. They're laughing it out. It's like, what are they afraid of? I'm like, yeah, I know. The fact that makes me, gives me hope that you're going to make the big change through political force, getting everybody together, create the big influence. That's the big war. The next war is not going to be fought by guns and tanks and missiles. No, it's going to be fought through words and rationale, influence. We can make this world a Muslim world, I swear to you. Through who? Through swift thinking brains, which our kids are naturally going to adopt into. Okay, so make sure you understand that one dude burning the Quran, no. Us hiding the Quran, that's the bigger problem. Muslim, Ammis and Abus. Muslims, Ammis and Muslims, Abus, hiding the Quran. That's something to be sad and to cry about.
Yes, sir.